welcome to another episode. I'm so excited to bring to you Cynthia Hyatt today. She's a relationship expert as well, and I am so excited to discuss all things love, relationship, and couples with her today. We're going to have an amazing conversation about how to do love and do it well so everybody is healthy and the relationship is healthy and thrives and is successful and we create what we desire. I want to review her brief bio and then we'll say hello to Cynthia. So, Cynthia is a life coach, a relationship expert, author, and motivational speaker with over 30 years' experience. Her education includes a master's degree in counseling, and she has taught psychology of religion at the University of Arizona Christian University, among other courses. Cynthia is widely recognized as an international speaker who shares inspirational and relevant teachings and presents biblical based seminars and lectures on relationships, gender, and conflict resolution. So she's going to bring a very different angle, possibly, to the conversation. Hi, Cynthia. Welcome.
Hello there. I'm glad to be here.
I
Thank
am
you so
so,
much for having me.
yes, I'm so happy that we were able to make this happen. I know that we tried a couple of times. Um,
Yes.
so, yes, good to have you. And I'm so looking forward to this conversation.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Cynthia, tell me a little bit about your story behind your work. Like what you've been working on, how has your work evolved, what kind of work you do? Who is Cynthia?
Well, it kind of went in a pretty circuitous route as I was growing up. I went to Northern Arizona University and had a master's degree in fashion merchandising and design. And
Okay.
I love fashion, and I was a performer, so I did a lot of singing, and I was in a lot of rock bands, and that's really what I wanted to do. Okay, that
Mm,
was like my that I really enjoyed doing, and kind of what happened was, I kept thinking it's not happening, and I would get a lot of gigs. It wasn't like, and everybody loved me, but no doors were really opening for me at all. But what always seemed to open up, like in my sorority, I became the pastor in my sorority. So I'm the one that everybody talked to. I'm the one that helped all the arguments. I'm the one that said, "Hey, let's reel this in. I don't think we want to be known for this." Right.
good.
So, it just kind of evolved there. And I never really gave it a thought because I just do that naturally, apparently. So I moved to Los Angeles and I worked for Saks Fifth Avenue as well, and I have lots of, things that I got from there because I get a great 30% discount, right? So
Nice.
wonderful things. And I hated my job.
Hmm,
I hated it. I could not, it's like I couldn't get excited about how many red sweaters blew out of the Santa Monica store.
right.
Just didn't do anything for me. Even though, I mean, I still love fashion. I do. But it's like, I'm glad that I got a master's degree because it helped me with it took me a long time to figure out
Mm,
who I really was and why I was made the way that I'm made. And I was also adopted. And so I'd never met my biological family. So
mm,
I'm very different than my adopted family. And so that was a very tumultuous time as well. And
I
so
bet.
some of what happened through high school and college, especially, I got it had ended up battling an eating disorder. And so I really struggled with that for many, many years. And so I was hospitalized at one point, and what was happening in that whole entire arena is everybody would come and talk to me about their problems. Okay. I'm in this place too, you see.
Right.
But and all the therapists would be like, "Hey, what do you think about this, Cynthia?" Like, and I'd be like, and I would tell them what I thought about what was going on with the patient and things like that. And it wasn't unethical, but it was fascinating that somehow they're picking up on
Your
maybe
wisdom.
yes, that I didn't even know that I had because you
Mm.
see, in my family, I was always the ditzy dumb blonde,
Oh,
because I just was
mhm.
a cheerleader and I was a singer and a dancer and an artist and all of this, and they were all education. You know? It's like, my parents would constantly say, "What about your education?" And I'd say, "I don't need an education, I'm gonna be a rock star."
Right.
Right? Every parent wants to hear that, you know? Yeah.
Yes, of course, that's the magic words.
Exactly. So, I went on and I ended up getting jobs in treatment centers, which was interesting as I was getting my master's degree, and then I was working on my doctorate, and I ended up teaching at the university, and all these things that this was never what I thought it was going to be. This is not the life that I had envisioned. And so it was a very interesting lesson to learn. And I do this with a lot of my clients is I say, you have to remind yourself that you're a created being, you know, and God did not consult me.
Hmm.
I would have done me differently. You
I love that.
And so, I had times with God where I was complaining, and he finally said, Cynthia, I don't want to hear the complaints. I like how I made you. I decided to have you like this. I wanted you to be like this. So if you don't like it, I don't want to hear about it.
Mhm.
And
You
I
know,
was like, yeah,
I love that. I have this analogy that when we were conceived or before conception,
right,
that
right.
up in heaven, we say, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, I wanna volunteer for that job," right? For that character.
Exactly.
And God could have said to you at that moment, "You
That's
chose
what.
this."
Mhm.
Now if you're changing your mind now, that's too late, right? Like,
Right.
that you just go in like a roundabout way of doing the thing that you wanted to
That's
do.
right. Right. That was a good way. That is a good way to look at it. That's funny because it really is. We struggle so much with who we are, and the should be, could be, would be, if only, and instead of I had to really come to terms with the fact that God did not consult me at all. And I'm either going to be at battle with myself all the time and
Mm,
unaccepting of myself, or I'm going to figure out, and this is where a lot of my work came from, how I'm going to be the best version of me. And see, that was a super important enlightenment for me to have because I was always trying to be like everything else out here,
right.
thinking that then I would have some peace. And so when I really came upon that concept that I was praying and just like, God, this nothing is working. And,
Mm,
and so it turned into, I thought, yeah, be the best version of me. That means I'm not competing with anyone anymore. It doesn't mean I don't have to judge anyone anymore. I don't know where they're at. I doesn't mean I necessarily like everything. Right. But it really helped to be able to say, I was created for a reason. And it's taken me a lifetime to figure that out. I never would have dreamt in my life that I would have high level education. I was not interested at all, you
mm.
know? And so my mom will say to me, "Well, we always knew you were smart." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." As I'm years in the living room and they bought me a trampoline because I had so much energy. So it's really understanding that you we the idea of being created is such a beautiful concept to understand that there's someone that is good at doing this and is thinking about what needs to be created and how it needs to be created and how it will be relevant for the earth and all of this. And it's like instead of just fighting with it all the time and fighting with the creation.
I love that. That's why I use the language all the time of let's continue to become who we really are,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Because there
yeah.
might be some other pieces of you that now you are integrating and make the full version of who you realize. This
Yes, yes,
person in front of me now, if
yes.
she didn't have that whole experience, it would be very different and it wouldn't
Right.
be you.
Mhm.
And it sounds like it's turning out to be pretty okay.
Yes, I never would have dreamed I would be happy
Mhm.
about it. So but it takes time and it takes courage and it also takes a lot of humility.
Mm.
And we in our world right now don't really like that quality. We don't want to hear that quality. We like humble people because they're easy to be around. We don't necessarily want to be one.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so it is a really important consideration to say, in the world that we're in right now, you still have to decide who you're going to be. And you have to ask your heart, ask your soul, your mind. If you're a religious person, then you have to seek that so that you can know that, hey, I didn't do this on my own. I didn't just show up on the planet and God said, "Uh-oh, what are we going to do with her?" Right?
Right. That was a mistake.
Exactly.
There are no mistakes.
Right. And so it's really recognizing that instead of like taking on your life in an aggressive manner, it's like, why don't I explore me?
I
You
love
know?
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that I can go, wow, that is me. And if there's something about me that I don't think fits, well, I can adjust it. Right?
Right.
I can change it. But if I'm at odds with me, if I'm fighting with me all the time, I'm not going to be able to do the reason I was born,
Mm.
you know?
And if you're trying to sell it to yourself and to others, and that's just so inauthentic, and that's why the doors don't open because that's not what you're supposed to be doing,
That's right. Yes.
right?
Yes, indeed. There is an acceptance piece that has to happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love it. Very nice, very nice. Now, how do you think this plays out in relationships?
Well, I think that's a great question because the more I know me, the more I accept me, the more in charge of me I am, the more I manage me, the easier it is to be around me.
Hmm, what a
Yeah, because
concept.
people aren't trying to do this all the time, containing. Okay. This is what we do. I say to clients all the time, this is what we do with toddlers and teens. We contain them. Why are you not containing yourself?
Hmm.
And we have to like self containment. It doesn't mean that it's always fun. I'm not always happy to do it. Sometimes, and this is a really cool thing I learned, if I breathe in, I can't talk.
I love that. That's like in kindergarten, I think, or
Yeah.
very early years, they teach the little kids, put a bubble, hold a bubble.
And I'll just go like this
Mhm.
because who am I to tell
Right.
them that they're wrong, right? Now, if they want to have a discussion about it and know why I think it would be wrong, that's fine, you
Right, we're
know?
not here to change somebody else's mind or to tell other people what to think. We're here to share what we think, and if they like it, fine, and if not, that's okay too.
Yes, and see, that's what mammals do. Mammals learn from each other. And
Mm.
so one of the things that I've done in my practice, which is really fun, is I talk to people about animals and I say, listen, you have to know the breed of the person you're in relationship with, And so I'll say to them, my husband knows I'm a cat. He knows. And I
Love
say, you
that.
don't pet the cat backwards, right?
Mhm.
You can pet a dog that way and they'll be happy as they can be.
That's so
But you
funny.
don't do it to a cat, And so I say to people, know the breed of who your family is, know the breed of your friends, of your coworkers, and so that you're not fighting with the breed. See, we have a cat, right?
Mhm.
I always tell my husband he didn't know how much he loved cats till he married me, right?
Cute. Good, good.
So, we have this cat and we have appropriate expectations on the cat. We don't, put a collar on her and try to walk her around the house. We don't put her out in the rain, right?
Right.
So, but we have some things that are certainly in scope of how she should act if she lives in the house.
Mhm.
And she does that, right? So it's like, you don't have to always use animals, but it's really saying to yourself, before I judge this person and try to change them, I might need to get to know them a little bit. That's what you and I do for our jobs. It's like I want to know people before I start, saying, "Hey, I wonder if this needs to change," or, "This is not going to help them," because you have to have that relationship so that they go, "Oh, I want to hear what might be better," you know?
That's so interesting. I love how you said that. I think that even us, that we are in charged with helping create
Yeah,
and facilitate change, who are we to tell somebody else what to do? We don't even do it,
right.
right? So we might say to people, "Have you looked at it? Have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? What about this? What
Right.
about that?"
Right.
Right? Try this, try that. Like, what suits you best? People are
Mhm.
still the owner of themselves,
Right.
right? They're still
Yeah,
the master of
that's
themselves. They
right.
still have the self-agency, and they will know if what we offer resonates for them, if it works for who they are and who they're trying to become, who
Right.
who
Right.
who they are evolving into being, who that
Yes.
they already have, like, got lost in translation along the way, right? But they're becoming more who they are.
Yeah.
We facilitate that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because some of it is recognizing that if we go back to red-blooded mammals, okay, then that's how we learn. So if I am showing you a different way to interact with your husband, with your children, it doesn't mean that I'm 100% right. It means that you want to be open-minded enough to say, hey, I wonder if I did it a little differently, or if I borrowed some of that from
Right.
Cynthia to see if it fits, you
Right.
know? So it's more about that so that we can get not so much emotional judgment, Now, I'm a big person on having judgment because our world does not practice judgment very well right now. So, I want us to be adults with good judgment, right?
Discernment,
Yeah.
discernment. Yes,
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 exactly.
I hear you.
So,
Mhm.
but I don't want to be judging someone because I don't understand them or I don't like them or I think they're stupid or whatever it is, right?
Or I
It's
don't
like I need.
agree.
Yes, yes. And so I think that it's wonderful, like, to hear you talk this way because I think the people that really love humans like you and I do, I tell people all the time, I said, I just love humans. I just love them, you
Mm,
know? I want to know about them. I want to help them. I want to see them. And so, that kind of a platform causes them to be able to settle down,
mm,
and hear some things that might not be, well, I don't know, might not be super fun to hear, but it no longer becomes ouchy, you know?
yes, yes. Right, so I love that. Yes, we do love humans. I'm so with you, and part of why I'm here is to hopefully help people do their human condition better, have a
Yeah.
better human experience, right? And that's what I'm working on for myself, and that's what I wanna offer others, and they could receive as much or as little as they'd like. It's still
Yeah.
their journey. And I love what you just said, that if we're able to kind of settle down a little bit, just because you know that I'm not coming from a place of forcing it,
Right,
right?
right,
Like, I just
right.
this, let's just all be curious. Can we do this better? Right? So
Mhm,
we have a better experience.
mhm,
Fabulous. Right? And then we just kind of chill out.
mhm.
And in that chilling out, we might become more open and more receptive. And
Right.
then we might be able to take some of the suggestions in and tailor them to fit ourselves if we have to.
Mhm.
Perfect. Yes, I love that.
Because I always tell clients, you don't have to do anything I tell you. All I want you to do is if you want to, try some things on and see if it changes something.
That's
If it
right.
doesn't, try something else. Instead of making this need to change and be this person or whatever it is, it's kind of like, why can't we do this as like an adventure? When I started doing that with myself, I was like, wow, I
Mhm.
didn't know I could do that.
Hmm.
I didn't know I had that. I didn't, or wow, I think that's not something I want to be showing everybody that I can do.
So funny.
Because I'm an
Excuse
adult.
me.
It's like I'm not gonna like take all my clothes off, right? I mean, it's like little kids running around naked or darling. Okay.
Mm,
I tell my clients to say big people running around naked, it's not that cute.
no,
Okay. Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
be very, very fit for that to be cute, and maybe
Exactly.
then.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's not gonna
That's
be
so
me. I'm telling you. Yeah.
uh, very good, Cynthia. So question,
Yes.
then, so if I'm focusing on being me more, being my
Mhm.
authentic me, taking care of me, managing me, developing more who I really am, shedding all the defenses, all the junk that
Mhm.
covers up who I am,
Mhm.
and I start doing that for myself.
Mhm.
What if my partner's not interested in
Mhm.
them doing that,
Mhm.
and they are really invested in making me wrong,
Mhm.
right? And like, well, you don't apologize. You don't, you have, there's no accountability. You do everything wrong. You think that you didn't do anything wrong and you think they do everything wrong. Like that kind of stuff. Like always the blame, 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 blame. And they just can't
Right.
snap out of it. Any thoughts about that?
Well, yes, because one of the things that I really teach my own clients is there's only four things that we have to be very, very careful about. That's illegal, immoral, unethical, dangerous.
Mm,
That's it. Okay. So any of those things, I am not going to help you. I'm not going to help you do it. I'm not going to necessarily judge you, but I'm not going to help you. Okay.
mhm.
So if we can remind people that, hey, we're allowed to try on things. So if you didn't like how I did it, that's good information for me. You know? It's like instead of it being this all or nothing, this black or white, it's
Mm,
like we know the black areas, the illegal, immoral, unethical, dangerous. Okay. That's a whole different level of human behavior, you know? So if I'm recognizing that, wow, I think I might be being a little unethical. I don't have to go tell the world about it. I tell clients all the time, if you want to come and tell me that you did something unethical, I think that's a brave thing to do. I'm glad that you're telling me. if you just don't have, like, the courage to tell somebody, but you think it, well, then
Mm,
good, think it and change it and don't do it. It's this simple, right? And so it's kind of like being able to just say, "Wow, I am overthinking a lot of this stuff." I don't have to work that hard. It's naturally me. This is what humans do.
mm, yes.
I mean,
Yes.
here's one that I'll tell you, and it's kind of gross, okay?
I like Rose. Go for it.
Okay. Okay. So I tell people, listen, let's talk about dogs versus cats, right? Well, dogs really like cat shit. It's disgusting. We have a cat. It's disgusting, right?
Mm.
That doesn't mean the dog is disgusting.
Ooh,
It just
yes.
means the dog is doing what dogs do. That's what they do. So I can help that dog say, no, 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 you're not going by the litter box. No, you're not allowed. But I don't have to judge the dog as now being a bad dog.
Right.
See, if I know the breed,
Hmm.
of course I'm going to hide the litter box because we have a dog, right?
Right.
That just makes sense.
Hmm. One of the things that I offer a lot of times is like, okay, so if you find that you constantly get stuck with this particular thing, the dog eating the cat shit, right?
Mhm.
Then and you're gonna get annoyed and mad at this dog every time the dog does it. How about we find a solution that resolves and is no longer an issue? Put the
Yes,
litter back somewhere else so the dog doesn't have access
exactly.
to it.
Like, what a novel
Bam.
concept. What a novel concept.
Right.
Exactly. Let's
Right.
not make it available.
Right.
Sing that immediately. Yeah, instead of doing this overhaul on a dog that is just being what dogs do. Yeah.
That's a good point too, right? So either you're gonna some people choose to like have the same frustration over and over and over and over, or I am not a dog owner, I can't do dogs, right? Or like this partner has to go. Like that's not gonna cut it. Let's get divorced, right?
Right.
Like when it doesn't have to be that way, right? Either one of those options don't have
Right.
to be the solutions.
That's right. That's
Very
see,
good.
and I think if people can think like that, it's like it doesn't have to be this hard.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be that hard. And what makes things very hard is if we have people, that I know you treat, I treat, that have had horrible experiences in their life. And so it makes sense to me why they're doing what they're doing,
Right.
but I want to help them quickly understand that that doesn't make them that's not their identity. That's a
Right.
coping skill. And so if that coping skill has been working for you, then I'm not going to take it away immediately, but I'm going to say, I think there's some other coping skills that you might like better.
Oh my gosh, so good. I like the way you said that. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're not gonna automatically take all the Band-Aids away and say, "Okay, go bleed." No.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
how do we make sure you don't bleed? Like, what's going on here? That there's bleeding going on, and let's help heal this.
Right. Like, see, I can say to clients, I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm understanding what you're doing. I'm not understanding why you're saying and doing those things.
Mm,
Right? Help me understand why you're saying and doing those things. There's something behind it that must make sense to you. But you're in my office because it's not working, right? So let's figure out why that seems to be better than figuring out a different way, you know?
good.
Yeah, because and that's what we do. That's what therapists do. We say, "Hey, okay, you figured something out and it's sort of halfway working. You're limping along here. So I want to congratulate you on finding a way to limp along. But let's like fix the leg, right?"
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. So good. So, any thoughts on how to help the partners not blame and
Mhm.
how to stay what I call in their own circles, like how to
Right.
have better boundaries because the
Mhm.
blaming game is going in somebody else's circle, the way that I like to describe boundaries, and telling
Mhm.
somebody else what to do and how they should be being,
Mhm.
right? So
And
how
I
do you do
think, yeah,
boundaries?
I think that's what, I tell people a lot of times, America is like their biggest their biggest problem is they're all is America is codependent. Okay. We care about everybody else in the world. We care about all kinds of things we don't care about. We don't do our stuff. We don't do our own
Oh my
house.
gosh,
Right.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. And so I understand why, but it's not helping anybody. you know?
Mhm. I got what you just said. That's
Okay,
a definition
okay.
of codependence. I'm not
Yes.
sure that the listeners possibly fully got that. So can you explain the definition of
Oh, yes,
codependence
yes, yes.
and how that might show up in a relationship?
Well, because what you're talking about is those circles. And so
Mhm,
it's kind of like, you have to understand where boundaries lie and that you have to respect the boundary before you can ever change someone. Because a lot of the change that you're maybe wanting from them is experiential. And so if you don't give them a good experience, they're not going to listen to you. So if you can't say it with some grace, right, and some love and some understanding. See, I can love and understand I all of my clients. That doesn't mean I agree with them.
mhm,
And so that's part of being an adult. And what I talk to clients a lot about is I say, the world is made up of triunes, okay? And so this one triune that I work with clients a lot is the me, myself, and I, okay? How do I talk to me about myself? That's going on all the time,
I
right?
love it, yes.
And so it's like when you think about these different kinds of ways of boundaries and understanding that, hey, I have to manage me because if I'm not wanting to manage me, but I'm wanting everybody else to manage, then I'm a toddler or a teen.
Mm,
That's what toddlers and teens do. And we're very gracious to toddlers and teens when they act that way because that's what those kids do. We can't be shocked by it. But if I've got a 45-year-old that's acting like a teenager, it's a disaster.
mm,
Now, it doesn't mean I don't have compassion for them because somehow that is working at some level for them, but it's really not getting them where they want to go.
that's right.
It's alienating themselves from a lot of people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So a partner who is not doing a great job managing themselves, they're being a little immature, they're maybe being toddler-like or teenage-like,
Mhm,
or not feeling being fully adulting.
mhm, mhm.
How might they show up in a relationship and how might they treat their partner? What might that look like so people who are listening and understand what
Mhm,
this looks
mhm.
like?
Well, I think what you see is if you've got someone that is, and the title, which we don't like, is actually just immaturity. We have an immature person, okay? Doesn't mean they're bad. For some reason, they have not done the concept of adulting yet, right? So
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that you accept it like, oh, well, that's just where they're at. Well, that's what I would say if you really were a teenager or a toddler. But if you're a grown adult with a family, a driver's license, bank accounts, and a job, okay, you don't. I'm not going to give you that level of deference that you can act like a child. You're
Mhm.
gonna confuse everybody and hurt people, and then you're gonna get hurt even worse because you don't like the way that they're seeing you, and so that it gets very complicated in that ways, but if you have people and, like you and I have, most of the people that come to see us really do want to change. They
Yes.
want to be that person, right? Yeah, and so it's like they're just confused or don't know how, like you and I had to grow up and our parents weren't perfect. And so I had to learn a lot of things the hard way, which I hope I help adults not have to learn the hard way. Because see, when adults have to learn the hard way, it's pretty messy.
Yeah.
You know, it like can mess up a lot of really important things.
Mhm.
So that's the part of just saying, hey, I need to be adult enough or old enough or, secure enough to know nobody's perfect. I'm not striving for perfection. And I tell my clients a lot of times, God gave me this great saying. He said to me one day, he said, Cynthia, you don't even know what perfect looks like. So I appreciate you trying. Okay. But that's not my expectation of you.
Love it.
Yeah. Because I can't be perfect. I can't. There's no way.
Right.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah,
it's
what is that even, right?
exactly.
Right.
That's a whole nother esoteric conversation to have, right? Yes. Yeah.
Totally. So would you say that when that immature person is trying to have a relationship and they are showing up immaturely,
Mhm.
can you share some of the thoughts, some of the behaviors that they might do so that partners or people could recognize it in themselves if they're doing some of those things?
Mhm.
If they're
Mhm.
being immature?
Yeah, I think immaturity shows up when you have people that are inflexible.
Mm,
That's a big one. But now, and I'm not saying about like like I tell people illegal, immoral, unethical, dangerous, right? Those things we're not going to massage that. Okay.
yeah,
But
we're
so
talking outside of that.
that's right. So
Regular realm, yes.
yes, yeah, it's kind of like, this doesn't need to be this difficult. So if I have hurt your feelings, all you need to do is tell me how I did it. I can then apologize for it, and if I can fix it, why wouldn't I? And we can just move on. Now, if you've got if you've got someone that's, like, really crossing a lot of lines, okay, then that's very different because if you're the partner of somebody that's crossing lines all the time and is enjoying doing it,
Mm,
you have a very immature spouse or partner or right? And so you can use the "when you I feel" statements, that helps, you know? We do that all the time, right? "Well, when you talk like that, when you say that, when you dress that like that, you know, I feel kind of strange, I feel kinda nervous," you know? So, you can do that, but when you have someone that is truly, immature, they really do need counseling, because somewhere in the growing up phase, they didn't learn what it felt like to be an adult, and I don't know about you, but there was a time where I actually went, "Oh, this is how adults feel." And it was wonderful. I'm like,
that's so good. I actually had a client fairly recently share with me something that they did to talking to totally what you just said.
okay.
She said something like, "We just got our children into kindergarten or our oldest into kindergarten," or something like that, all by ourselves. Right? They filled out the application, they financed it, they got the kid in, they picked the
Yes.
school, like, all the things, and we did it all by ourselves, and they're, like, in their 40s, and I'm like, I know what it feels to be an adult.
Yes. Yes,
So
and
awesome.
I tell people all the time, I did not wanna be an adult because I didn't have a great childhood necessarily. I don't know very many people that do, right? It's tough. And so when I became an adult, I was like, "This is so much easier. This is so much more fun. Oh my gosh. I don't have to," and like I'll tell people, you're like a walking piece of Velcro, okay? You snag on everything. It's like smooth it down, right? It's
Mm,
like you don't need to snag on everything. It's not that big of a deal, right? And so I think when people can relax a little bit and because it's that fear part that we don't always recognize that we're afraid, you know, that and the afraid can be, I'm not measuring up, I'm not good enough, I don't like how I look, I don't have enough money, I don't, they're going to find out something about me, all of those voices that our brain is thinking it helps us, when all it does is makes us more anxious,
right,
So I think it still goes back to acceptance, the key to all my problems, right? So when I had to finally accept me, realizing that I was not consulted, okay, and I'm going to be this forever, right? So that helped me want to be a better version of me because I'm going to be with me all the time, you know?
right,
And
right.
I wanted to like unzip and get out and go find another person to be, So if people can really remind themselves that a lot of what they're managing is really kind of how would I say it isn't that big. It's the feelings of it that are big, So it's kind of like I tell people, if I stub my toe, well, that stops everything, right? That stops it, but it's not dangerous. But
Nobody's
it's
gonna die of a stubbed toe for the most part.
yes, but
Mhm.
it's very painful. And so just because it's very painful doesn't mean it's bad, you know? So a lot of what I remind people is humans are very receptive to please and thank you. It's amazing what that does for people. They calm down because humans want to feel safe, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing in just kind of tying some of the loose ends or some of the
Mhm.
concepts that we're sharing, that if somebody's immature because they didn't do they had a
The
difficult
adulting
childhood
piece. Right, right.
or they had whatever childhood, but as they grew up, they didn't really adult.
Mhm.
right? So they're showing up a little bit immature, and that immaturity might show up like crossing the other person's boundaries, crossing the lines, not owning their side of things, being inflexible. You said earlier, I love
Right,
that.
right.
And the easiest way is to just manage ourselves if we are that immature person and seeing, okay, these are my feelings. My feelings might feel big,
Mhm.
but maybe the situation is actually not that big. Can I just take a deep breath? Can I pause for a second? Can I assess how big is this and how do I manage it? Just taming the body, taming the mind, just chilling out for a second, and
Right,
then regrouping and addressing differently. And
right.
if I'm the recipient partner, to
Mhm.
maybe have that compassion, that empathy, that understanding for my partner's immature a lot of
Right.
the time, all the time, or right now.
Mhm, mhm,
How do we engage in a way that hopefully they continue to adult and it
mhm.
doesn't impact me? How do I address
Yeah,
my side?
yeah. This is because the thing that we have to remind ourselves is that you and I know how we have the gut, the heart, the brain. We have
Mhm,
neurotransmitters in all three of those.
mhm.
And so we have more in our gut than we do in either our brain or
Isn't that
our
interesting?
yes. And so when I think about, hey, this person, I don't like them, or they're hurting my feelings, or they're being an idiot, all those kinds of things. If I'm an adult, then I remind myself that, yeah, those are my opinions. I don't really know why they're doing it, so I don't want to judge that. But as an adult, I get to walk away, and I don't have to make a scene about it. I can just not feel comfortable, and I'm going to go talk to somebody else. It's that simple. Now, if somebody's, because we have this tendency to think and believe our feelings, and I say to my clients, this is my saying that they hear religiously. Feelings are very real, but not always true.
Mhm.
So I say, I know you're having a feeling. I don't know how true it is. Okay. Because what we know about truth, it's always true. Truth does not change. Yeah. Truth doesn't go, oh, I'm going to be less truthful today and I'm still the truth. No, the truth is always just, it's the truth.
Mm.
So when I can realize that, hey, feelings are very real, but not always true. So am I believing my feelings over letting time occur so that I might see if it's actually true because I'm feeling like it's true, but I don't know if it's actually true.
Feelings change, right? So that
That's
it's not a consistent thing. So
right.
I hear what you're saying. And so, right, truth doesn't change,
Right.
but
Right.
feelings change. And so if I allow just percolating for a second, oh, my state of being might change. I might look at it differently, and therefore the feeling might soothe or go away,
Right.
and I could now address whatever the thing was differently.
Exactly. If I can just relax my body, and this is where, I tell clients, and I think we talked about this earlier, illegal, immoral, unethical, dangerous. Well, I'm supposed to be on high alert for that stuff. But if somebody just rolls their eyes at me,
Mm,
okay, that's not dangerous. That's uncomfortable. That's nasty or mean or gosh, that's not nice. That's not dangerous.
beautiful. So, Cynthia, what advice would you give for partners who are dealing with themselves being immature or their partners being immature and therefore crossing boundaries a lot or not fully having good self agency and managing themselves properly, not having good boundaries,
Mhm.
so that they can manage themselves and not try to manage their partner? It's not their job to manage their partner, but what
Right.
can they do in managing themselves so that they can have a different moment with their partner, a different interaction?
Well, I think it's a great question. More than anything, it's really knowing your own body. So if I start to like have a feeling about something I just saw or something I heard, you know, the first thing that for me to do is to relax my shoulders and take a breath. Because if I breathe, oxygen clears my brain. So I now can think like an adult again, you know? So it's that. It's like relaxing and saying, okay, that's ugly. That really hurt my feelings. But see, I have time. And this is what I'm always working on. And we talked about this earlier. I think that I'm always talking with clients about what are the things that you have no time with? Blood, broken bones, nobody's breathing fire. We have no time. Everything else, we have time. In
Mm,
fact, I can talk to you a week later about what happened a week ago.
that's right.
I can simply say, I've been thinking about this for a while and I haven't been able to like get it to be okay inside of me. Can I talk to you about that moment that we had?" That's
Excellent.
all. Yeah.
Mhm. Totally. Very, very nice. Yes. So I heard you say just taking a pause so
Yeah.
that now we're reacting so that
Well,
we could think again. So we're not just trigger and acting out of trigger, but we could
right.
engage our thinking faculties and do
Mhm.
something differently. And it doesn't have to be addressed in the moment if we're still not sure what was happening for us
Right.
or for our partner. We could come
That's right.
back.
And so, both of us know how important oxygen is.
Mhm.
That's the main thing that all mammals need is oxygen. So I remind people again, if I breathe in, I can't talk, you know? So I do that a lot. I'll be in a session or I'll have, I have family members or somebody at the grocery store and I'll just go like this. And then I can decide, do I want to say something? And a lot of times I don't. It's not worth it.
That's right.
Right. But if I am like saying it's not worth it to say something, then I better be okay when I walk away because it's not fair to do that to people that have no idea what you just encountered. So if I can't get over myself, then I better get over myself before I start talking to other people.
Can you explain that a little bit more? That was beautiful.
Well,
So
it's think about it like this. It's like, how we pass germs to one another. Okay.
mhm,
Well, feelings are an entity. They're a chemical entity. And so what we do passes on to another person. So if someone looks at me and they look harshly at me, it's
mhm.
going to change all of a sudden my whole body goes into fight, flight, or freeze. It's like, I don't know if this person's okay. So whatever I was doing 2 seconds ago was totally out. It's gone. Because I'm now focused on, is this what's wrong with this person? Did I do something? Oh my gosh, right? So a lot of it is the more that you understand your own body, the more that you take advantage of air, the more control you have. See,
So
I can tell my body to stand down. I can say, "Yeah, I know. I know that was ugly, but it's not dangerous. It's just ugly."
mhm. So
Yeah.
I think what I heard you say is that if we're willing to breathe in, hold the air, and
Mhm,
not speak, and we're then do this engaging with the person that triggered us, whether it's our partner or somebody else,
mhm.
and we let it go, but we didn't really let it go.
Right.
And
Right.
then we are spreading the yuckiness in
Mhm,
other interactions. We're still carrying that with us.
mhm.
So if
Well,
we're choosing not to say something, I think that what I'm hearing you say is, like, we better really be okay with, like, it's not worth it, like, we're really letting it go. We're not just sucking it up.
right. Right. If I can't let it go, I need to talk about it.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I
And
can
it
try to just not and just say, yeah, I can think I can get over that. And if I'm not getting over it, I need to be adult enough to say, hey, can I run this by you? You
right.
know, 2 days ago we were talking about this. I don't know if you remember, but you said blah 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 blah. Is that what you really meant? I just want to check that with you.
Is what I heard. Is that
Yes.
what you meant? Is that what you said?
Right.
Yep.
That's right.
Lovely. Yes, and it doesn't mean that you have to let it go immediately.
'Cause
You
sometimes
could
that happens.
try.
Yes. But
Right.
sometimes we need to think about it and take into consideration a whole bunch of other things. Like maybe there was a crying child in the grocery store line and I rolled my eyes at my partner, right? Because they were trying to push me a little bit forward and I'm like, ah, right?
Mhm.
So if I can be adult enough to say there was a lot of variables that were going on there.
Right.
So it really set off the central nervous system, my fight, flight, or freeze, and so I have to say, wow, I need to breathe. I need oxygen. Oxygen is what dissipates the fight, flight, or freeze, right? So if
Mhm.
I can relax my shoulders, take in a breath, if it still bothers me after that, well, then maybe it's a big deal.
Very nice. That's
Yeah,
right.
and then I can figure out how I want to handle it, and I have
Right.
time.
Right. Right. So just a little clarity. So if in the moment we're choosing to let it go,
Mhm,
then maybe we actually let it go, maybe we didn't. And hopefully we were being honest with ourselves and we're trying to let it go and then we move on. We
mhm,
might have different interactions with people now. We might be infecting other people because
right?
we didn't really fully let it go, but we do the
Right.
best we can.
right?
But knowing that, I meant to let it go, but actually still lingering, so I could still go back. And it
Yes.
doesn't mean that I have to address everything in the moment. I just want to be really clear about that because people get hung up on like, I can't wait. I have to address it right now. And everybody's triggered, everybody's pissed off, and everybody's doing funny business. That's not a good conversation, right? It's okay
Besides
to
the fact
pause
that
it.
that we're adults, you can wait. And
Right.
see, it's tough. I understand, but when that little girl inside of me wants it right now, where's the adult saying, "I get it, honey, but it's not possible.
Right.
Okay? I'll take care of you in a minute. Just
Oh, good. Yes,
relax."
exactly.
Yeah. And it's like, if I say to people all the time, imagine if the world just parented themselves well. It would be heaven.
Oh my gosh. Yes, we actually do a lot of reparenting work. Absolutely, right? We could give
Right.
to ourselves what we didn't
Right.
get growing up or what we still need. It's okay to give it to ourselves. What a
That's
concept.
that's right.
Yes, I love it.
Yes.
Good. So any other observations in terms of what immaturity might look like, what codependency might look like, what crossing boundaries might look like a specific descriptions or any other thoughts about those things?
Well, I think that, those are the kinds of things that we should have been taught as a kid, right? And the majority of us didn't get that. Maybe we did, but a lot of it, I think, for people is recognizing, hey, I can trust the central nervous system. So if something goes off and I get my feelings hurt, okay, I don't have to pretend like it didn't happen because I don't want to be immature. But I
Mm.
have to say to myself the same way as a mommy would say to a little kid, "What bothered you about that, honey? Are you okay? What would you rather it have been?" And they just talk to the child, and the child goes, "Because they should have said hi to me." And then you can validate, yes, they should have. And they weren't nice. You're right, they weren't nice.
Well,
But
that's
you
assuming that people know how to parent.
yes,
They might not
yes.
even be doing that with their own kids,
I
right?
know.
That's a different
I know.
conversation. Yeah.
And so if we have this conversation, if I teach people how to parent themselves, then they become good parents.
Yes.
No. Yes, because that's like I constantly remind my clients, me, myself, and I, me, myself, and I. How do I talk to me about myself, right? Because my internal world is going to come out all the time.
Yep.
I wish we could keep our internal world inside all the time, but that would be very, very like high functioning people that can say, okay, I can do the party for the next 2 hours and I'm really upset. Some people can,
Yeah.
you know.
Totally.
But if you can't, then you have to say, I think I need to take a time out. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of going to the bathroom.
Yes, that's the example that I use. That's so funny. That's actually what I tell my clients too
Yeah,
when we're talking
yeah,
about like it's okay to just be like, you know what? I'll be right back. Let me just
yeah.
deep breath and you just
Gotta
kind of like
reset. Yes.
I'll be right back. I just need to go to the bathroom quick.
Yeah,
Deep breaths in the bathroom, right? Like just
I
reset,
agree.
rethink, right?
Exactly.
Build
Yes.
that little you build that little cushion there, that
Mhm.
little breather.
Yes.
Yes, so
And it
funny.
helps you to decide, can I let this go? Or is this actually something I need to address?
Mhm.
And if I need to address it, I can't lie about that because
Mm,
it's going to contaminate me and other people.
I love
If
that.
I
Yeah.
yeah, if I can just say, "Okay, that's all I needed. I needed a little time out. I got myself recentered. I'm okay." That's awesome. I mean, I would prefer that. I don't like to confront people, you know?
So most things are not confrontable. They're just silly
Right.
stuff. Like, it's okay to let most of the things go,
Mhm. Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love it.
Something else that I share when okay, so when you go to the bathroom and you take that little breather, this is
Mhm.
how I teach this.
Yes.
I say things like, "It's okay then if you know that you want
Mhm.
to address it only if you understand where your partner might be coming from or what do you
Mhm.
think might be happening for them. If you
Mhm.
still hung up on, I'm gonna show them my side, let me shove my side down their throat. Like if you can't
Yeah.
have compassion that they're having an experience too, then you're not
Mhm.
ready for a conversation.
That's right. That's very good because those boundaries are very helpful. It's that same thing with the triune. It's like if I'm still in the little kid part of me
Right.
and I'm trying to get my good feelings from you as my parent or something, like you should do this and could do this. And if you would have done this, then everything would have been fine.
Mm,
Okay. Yeah. That's where it's like, okay, I have to own the fact that I'm in the childlike part of myself. which makes me very, very vulnerable, which means we don't let little kids out of our sight, right? So if I'm stuck in
Right.
the inner child, I better be very careful, you know, because I don't have an adult right now. And
Right.
now I have to go find my adult, and that doesn't mean that just because I didn't confront them on that day, I can wait 2 weeks. I can wait a month. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. I love that we went into the realm of the reparenting and
Yes.
in
Yes.
the inner bonding, to working with a little kid and addressing a little kid, and having this analogy of checking with yourself: is my little kid in charge right now? Where's the adult? If the
Yeah.
adult is not present, go take care of your little kid first. You
Yes.
know.
Yes. And see, I remind people, if I have the adult part of me like in check,
Mhm.
then people get to see the little kid in me. And it's
Mm.
fun. It's very fun. It's
Yes.
silly. It's fun. It's like, wow, we're just having a great time. And so I can do that for myself. It doesn't mean that I have to be this like on my game all the time.
And if
Right?
you bring the child out to play, you don't have to be childish. There's a
Yes,
difference.
exactly. Exactly.
Oh my goodness, beautiful.
Yeah.
Good. So any thoughts, and we'll use this as kind of like a closing piece, on how to self-manage, how to self-care, how to resource ourselves so that we can bring the parents out more frequently and not have the kids just floundering around.
Mhm. Well, I think that's a great question, and I, the way that I have worked it for myself and that I work with other people is I first say to them, you have to be willing to be an adult. So it doesn't mean that you can't play, but you have to be willing to be an adult so that if you're interacting with another adult, that you're enough on your game that you're not passing to them your feeling, right? Now, they should probably be an adult and have good enough boundaries, but not everybody does. We get tired. So a lot of it is being able to say, if I'm just polite, that fixes most everything.
Mhm.
And I'm an adult. I have a car. I can go sit in it and figure out what I want to do, you know? And so the more that I'm willing to give myself options instead of they should not have done that, I can't tolerate that. Okay, I think that that's probably accurate, you know, but what are you going to do with it?
Right.
Because if you don't manage it, it's gonna mess up the rest of your day, and it could ruin some very important relationships.
Oh yeah.
And you get shame attacks because you don't like who you are, right? Then you wanna, like it's like I tell people I wanna unzip myself and get out, right? It's like, and I have to manage that. I have to say, "Wait a minute, I'm the one that did that. I need to manage that."
Hmm.
That's not it's not an excuse simply because they hurt my feelings.
And if they're acting immaturely, doesn't mean that I have to act immaturely
That's
back.
right. That's right. And it doesn't mean I need to parent them either. I just need to be kind. And I
Oh
remind
my
people all the
God.
time,
I might
yes.
have to quote you.
And so the more that I recognize, hey, if I just do me and do me well, it's amazing how many good things happen to other people. I don't even have to work that hard. I just be nice.
Hmm.
I say this to people all the time, just be nice. Well, I don't really like them. I don't care. Just be nice.
Right, it solves
It
everything.
calms
And
everything
that
down.
doesn't mean fake, right?
That's
Or
right.
and it doesn't mean inauthentic. It just
That's
means don't
right.
be a jerk.
That's right. It's
Just
just
mean
like, can we
just be a human being.
no, it's like, can we operate out of the higher version of ourselves? You
Yes.
know? Especially if we don't know all these people that well, if we don't know their backgrounds, we don't know what really is going on with them. We just know that we're not really attracted to them at the moment. I say, okay, well, I'm not always attractive either. But that doesn't mean that I'm allowed to be mean. And
Right.
it doesn't mean that you can just go off and judge me somehow. If you're going to judge
Right.
me, you might want to come and ask me what's going on with me so that you figure out what you're judging.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, I love it. And when we have our, when our defenses are down or our boundaries are down, when we're vulnerable, when we're triggered, whatever, and we happen to be mean and imperfect,
Yeah.
and that
Yes.
imperfection shows up even more,
Mhm.
then we could have compassion for ourselves.
Yes.
Hopefully, our loved ones will have compassion for us, and
Mhm.
vice versa. We could do that for them as well. And we could always go back and repair.
That's
So it
right.
doesn't mean that we're saying that you should be nice all of the time, no matter what. You should be perfect at being nice all of the time. Sometimes we can't. You could
So
go
what I
back
you
and
know
make
what?
nice.
What I tell people is if you can't be nice, just be decent.
Hmm.
Just be decent, you know? That
Or just shut up.
yeah.
Just walk away. That's
Because
decent
if
enough.
if I just act decently, it's really rare for someone to be a jerk around me if I'm just being decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People react to other people, right? Like most of the time when something is happening, people having a reaction of some sort.
Right, right.
And a lot of time is their own internal world saying stuff like how they assign motives to us, or how they choose to look at something, what meaning they give it, and we do the
Mhm.
same. So if we could just watch that, okay, if people are putting that stuff on me, I don't have to necessarily give it back. I don't have to take it on. I don't have to do anything with it. I could just be like, okay, you could choose to
Well,
look at it that way.
I tell people that a lot of times now, you may be too young for this, but do you remember Ghostbusters?
Yes. I'm
Okay, do
not
you
too
remember
young for that. Come on now.
okay, okay.
That's kind.
Well, I tell my clients, "Listen, it's kinda like Ghostbusters. The guy got slimed, okay? Well, does that mean he's slime? No.
That's
So,
so good. Yes.
I can get slimed by somebody, I don't have to wear it for the rest of my life,
Right.
and I can just go, "Well, that wasn't very nice," but do I need to think it's personal all the time?
Right.
No.
So good. I love all your analogies. So good. So
Thank
rich.
you. I love
Beautiful.
analogies. My husband, he's a very critical thinker. He's like, "I don't get your analogy, Cynthia." I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
How can you not? Slime.
Yeah, I know.
Very easy. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay, my love. Any
yeah.
last words of wisdom that you want to impart to the listeners?
I think the biggest, it goes we've heard this so many times, but it really is acceptance.
Hmm,
Acceptance key to all my problems. And just because I'm accepting something doesn't mean I agree with it.
right.
Okay? And I tell that to people all the time. If I can fix it, then of course I will fix it. If I just have to accept it, then I need to accept it. And I need to not let it contaminate me because then it's going to slime other people without
Mhm.
them even knowing why.
And I have a choice on that. I don't have to accept it either. I could just move on,
That's exactly right. What a
right?
concept. Yeah.
What a concept. Beautiful. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it was a pleasure having you
Oh,
on.
thank
I
you. Me
will share.
too.
Thank you for agreeing to be on. And I will share all your contact, your social media, your podcast. I know that you have a radio show that you put your podcast on. So we
Mhm.
will put all of those links in the show notes so people could continue to be in
Thank
touch
you.
with you as they choose and as they like.
Thank
And
you.
again, thank you so much for being here. Lovely conversation. You're a lovely
Always
person.
fun with
Really
you.
appreciate you.
Yes, thank
We do
you.
have fun together. Okay, my love. Have a fantastic. And to the listeners, I will see you at the next one.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye.
I know.